What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some Gary Numan. That is to say, I'm reacting to an artist for the first time. Anytime I do that, I just like to say welcome to anyone who's found the channel, in this case looking for a Gary Numan reaction. I did also want to give a shout out to massive friend and champion of the channel, Han Solo. Not only did he make this material available to me, but he has been prodding me to check out Gary Numan's material for a while, and it seems especially relevant. As you can see behind you, if you're new here, I'm not only very much into punk rock, but I am a techno, trance, and hardcore DJ for going on 26, 27 years now. So yeah, ultimately it speaks to both of my interests, and the reason I say that, I don't know much about Gary Numan, but what I do remember reading is that he was got his start in a punk band, I believe, was it I looked this up on Discogs just to confirm, yeah, Mean Street. So he's apparently in a band called Mean Street. He got kicked out of that band. He was then in another punk group called Tubeway Army. And I didn't know this specifically, but apparently while he was gigging and recording some singles with this other guy as Tubeway Army, he found a Moog synthesizer, and apparently that was like a really crucial moment in his musical career, and now he is considered one of the real pioneers of electronic music and electronic dance music. It's interesting because I'm very much into trance and techno, including, stuff that goes back to the early 90s. I didn't start raving till very late 96, early 97, and I didn't get my turntables until summer of 98, but I do listen to a lot of music that goes back at least to 93. Before that, some stuff sounds dated to me, but ultimately I am aware of, Kraftwerk and some of the real sort of pioneers in electronic music. But I don't think I've heard Gary Numan's tunes. So it feels like long overdue in a sense, the fact that he has this legacy as a sort of former punker turned electronic music pioneer, and the fact that I, as a big fan of punk rock, going back to my early teens and the early 90s, although a lot of bands I listened to got their start and are famous for tunes in the early 80s, Bad Religion, Subhumans, Dead Kennedys, and so on. Yeah, the fact that my interest seemed to suggest I should know about Gary Numan, but I don't, so this does feel overdue. We're going to listen to a tune from his 1979 album, I believe after he had become into this electronic style, and it's called The Pleasure Principle is the album, and the track is called Airlane. For those of you new here, when I listen to a track that I've heard before, I just talk for a minute or two about the lyrics, not in a definitive way, just the way I've heard them, the way I interpret them. And if I don't know a tune, I'll just speculate for a minute about what the titles suggest, what possible themes, even less definitively, of course, but just as a way to get my brain working and think about what we might hear thematically. So Airlane is admittedly a bit more of an ambiguous term. It's not one that I hear in common use. If it has a technical usage, I'm not familiar with it. I suppose in aviation you could speak of an airlane, which is to say a path of travel with which you coordinate with other airplanes and control towers to make sure that no one crosses your airlane while you're going down for a descent to land, or just passing through a particular airspace. So if it has a technical meaning, I would think it would be in that area, but I don't know that for certain. And I'm not sure, figuratively or metaphorically what that might suggest, other than just, people's trajectories in their life and, perhaps needing a certain amount of space or a sort of line that is unimpeded. But, beyond that, I'm not sure. And ultimately it might have nothing to do with that anyway. But let's get it. This is Gary Numan. The tune is Airlane, and it's from his 1979 album, The Pleasure Principle. Han Solo suggests that I listen to this in proximity to OMD. I'm already feeling the reason why. Yeah, that low end, that diesel engine. I'm also getting a bit of like Simple Minds vibes. Edgy, gritty low end. Really like expansive. But clearly an instrumental, right? Unless it's like Japan and there's like a short, like 1 minute vocal section, which I can't understand anymore. The engine of the tune, my God. Insane. Again, it felt like synth rocky, which, you know, in 1979, the way it started and the way the hi-hats were going, I was like, oh my God, it does feel like a dance track. You know, not a disco track, but like a later, like electronic dance track. But then once it started, like I said, it was giving me Simple Minds vibes, that sort of like instrumental synth, but with a sort of rock kind of percussive groove. So yeah, really cool. And again, I do hear some similarities with the admittedly quite limited amount of OMD tunes I've heard so far. But yeah, ultimately I get it. That's only 1 year after this album came out. So, you know, the late 70s, early 80s synth rock blending into synth pop. I'm beginning to, you know, get a wider sense of that picture. So shout out to all the friends of the channel. Shout out specifically to Han Solo. I do appreciate this is something that maybe I should have gotten to a little bit earlier. So big ups to you for suggesting it. Do let me know what you think of the track. More Gary Numan to come. First couple albums are already in the folder. So yeah, looking forward to this journey now even more than I was before, where it felt like, man, I gotta get to that, I gotta get to that. Now it'll be like, I'm looking forward to going back to that. So yeah, let me know what you think. We'll see you next time. Peace.